In its first season, A1GP promised its audience an exciting new race series. That's exactly what they got. This year, the fans expect, and A1GP promises to deliver even more than before. A1GP is back with clogs on. Welcome to the first race weekend of Series 2 from the Circuit Park Zandvoort, Holland. Hi there, the colour orange has become synonymous with A1GP since its first race at Brands Hatch 1 year ago. Since then, an army of fans have travelled around the globe to fly the flag for Team Netherlands and driver Jos Verstappen. Well, this weekend, the Dutch support need not go far. A1GP has answered their call and is in Amsterdam to launch Series 2. Except there's been a last-minute hitch. There is no Jos Verstappen, at least not anymore.
We thought that there was room for some faith in us because we paid him and some sympathy towards us. And the conditions that he put were so strict that it just created a bad atmosphere. And we thought, like, well, with young drivers hungry to get in, capable drivers, and then somebody trying to act, forgive the word, but like a prima donna, we didn't appreciate it.
Well, let's get more on this extraordinary story with World Touring Car Champion Andy Priaulx and motor racing expert Tony Jardine. Tony, first of all to you, a financial dispute, but who's to blame?
Two sides to every story, but Hub Rottengatter, who's the manager of Jos Verstappen, I just know that he's a very, very hard negotiator. I remember 3 years ago when they were negotiating last chance saloon for Verstappen to stay in Grand Prix, and after 3 months it fell over. But the whole of Holland then had a hate campaign against Jordan Grand Prix. It took a long time to redress the balance on that issue.
Andy, we know how much it means to the Dutch supporters on the A1GP circuit. On the basis that 100,000 tickets were pre-sold for this weekend, should these differences have been put to one side, do you think?
I think so. It's a shame they couldn't find a solution 2 or 3 days ago. It's a shame that Jos isn't racing this weekend. But as a racing driver, you know, you do get these situations, and sometimes you've got to stand by your decision, and he's done that. Bleeker Molen, I think, will do a good job this weekend. Hasn't
stopped. Hundreds of thousands of Dutch fans are turning up to watch this A1GP. How much do they enjoy their motorsport and this series, Tony?
Well, they're the Barmy Army. They travel the world following Verstappen. You see orange flags everywhere. You see them go to Spa and so on. But they're still there because they gave them a chance to get their money back for the tickets until last night at midnight. And I think only about 1% asked for their money back. So it shows they love motor racing. They have the Masters there at Holland for Formula 3. And they flocked there because they just love motorsport. They'd like to have a Grand Prix back at Zandvoort in the years to come.
The man they'll be watching is Bleeker Molen instead of Verstappen, but a big opportunity for that particular young driver. Let's just remind you of last season's top 10 finishes, and here is how it finished last campaign with France the champions. Andy, the resounding winners last time out, are they still the team to beat?
They are, but the other teams are catching up, and they're catching up fast. Switzerland are good. Great Britain have got a brand new team. There's a few teams coming from the back of the grid moving forward. India with Narain Karthikeyan in the next race. They're going to be very, very fast.
Tony, who do you see as the likely contenders for the championship?
Well, I'm a bit like Andy. I like seeing these emerging nations coming through. And I see Malaysia were very strong at the end of last year. We're watching China now. They've been real back of the grid team, but Astra Mega are running them, and they've got this Frankie Chen guy, and he's been midfield all the time out, so they're going to be strong as well. South Africa are now being run by Dams, who of course have run the winning team at France. So we've got to watch out for them too. Andy, we're into season 2. Is there a feeling that teams are now taking it a little more seriously than last year?
I think the teams are getting really serious. It survived the first year. The second year is a real acid test, and the level has increased. The championship still a little bit unstable, but the teams are extremely serious, and the performances of the drivers and the teams in winter testing has been much, much closer.
OK, chaps, thanks for the moment. Well, last season, Team GBR finished a respectable third. This year, team boss John Surtees has stressed nothing less than a series win will do. The new addition to the drivers' lineup, Darren Manning, is charged with the task of delivering that all-important first Team GBR victory in Zandvoort. Here's his take on Zandvoort, the drivers' track.
So here we are at the beautifully sunny Zandvoort circuit, right next to the beach. One of my personal favourites on the A1 circuit and venue to the first round of the A1 Grand Prix of Nations. It's a good track, good combination of very high speed, dangerous corners, and also a good combination of slow, technical corners where you've got to use a lot of curbs, not too much because of that sand just off the edge of the track. So let's take a bit of a closer look at some of these demanding corners. So here we are at the braking zone at turn 1, just after the 100 metre board, and already you can see a lot of lock-up marks, all these tyre marks, look at them all going down up the inside. Big chance for overtaking after this long straight. A lot of camber in the middle of the corner there, really going to hook the car into the apex, hold that tight line, give the car a lot of grip, extra grip than normal on a flat surface. Big last lap overtaking chance here for a big last lap lunge. So here we are at the very tricky turn 3 hairpin. It's tricky because it's very steeply cambered and very steep downhill, and also turn 2 is very high speed. 4th gear, probably just a slight lift, and that compromises your entry to this corner. Very easy to lock an inside front because of this steep camber. The inside front, like I said, is very, very, very light. But very important to get a clean exit because there's a long straight coming out of here. Once you've got your inside wheel on this white line, there's lots of grip with this camber to shoot you out up onto that next straight. Okay, moving on now to the fastest corner on the track. Difficult corner here because it's got a blind entry and you're pulling 6th gear going into it. 1 down change when the track's good conditions are really good, probably 2 when it's a little bit dusty to begin with. A lot of camber in the corner again once you get into it, and just look at that gravel trap on the exit here. No gravel trap in the world is like that. They're normally just dead flat and they can't stop anything. But that's so steep, because it's such a fast corner and dangerous, that'll stop absolutely anything. After the very fast turn 4, you've got a couple of wide open hairpins which lead into this very nice little complex chicane. Look at all this curb that you've got to come to terms with in the first part. But because it's a 2-part corner, you have to use a lot of that and take a lot more speed than you would do normally if that was the only part of the corner that you're doing. But you've got this very nice, wide open, cambered, kind of long hairpin in the second part of the chicane here. So you can take a lot of curb there. Don't worry about your exit too much because you're still on the brakes in this second part of the chicane. But just look at all that sand and dust on the inside there. If you get all that wrong, you're in all that sand and in a whole bunch of trouble. This is the last turn, absolutely flat out, foot to the boards. Very important corner this, because you've got this very, very long pit straight that you're going to be trying to out-drag people into that turn 1, or possibly into the finish line for the end of the lap.
That's what Darren and the others have to look forward to a little later on this afternoon. Now, let's talk about Darren first of all, chaps. How big an asset is he to Team GBR, Andy?
Darren's an extremely experienced driver. He's 31 years old, he's very, very fast, and I think he's going to be the guy that they're going to want to keep. He's got 2 young whippersnappers after him with Robbie Kerr and obviously Oliver Jarvis, but I think that Darren will do a good, consistent job over the whole year.
What difference does it make to a team, Tony, to have a man of Darren's experience on board?
Huge amount, because you look at him from British F3, he went off to do Champ Cars, Indy Cars, IRL. He was a winner over there with Chip Ganassi. Enormous amount of experience. So that's what he's bringing to the team to take it up to the next level. That's what John Surtees is looking for, and I think you're going to find Oliver Jarvis as one of the whippersnappers, as Andy calls him, one of our bright, Autosport, McLaren Autosport winners of the year. He's looking to get that full-time seat. So it's a competitive circle inside a lot of the teams, but especially inside Team GB.
The impression an outsider gets, Andy, is that John Surtees is desperate to win this championship.
He wants to win it. I mean, he's won World Formula 1 Championship, he's won World Motorbike Championship, he's not a loser. He's running this team from the inside now, he's making the decisions, he's desperate for a win. They missed out on that last year. How
important is experience going to be at Zandvoort then, with Darren Manning in the car?
I think it's very important because it's a very difficult circuit. We're going to see the difference between some of the newer and rookie drivers here at this very complex circuit. I know Andy does a lot of testing there, but for when I was working there in Formula 1, you've got the blind corners as we've seen. The big element you've got is the wind can play tricks on you, the surface changes because there's sand blowing onto the course. I mean, we used to get sand in the injection trumpets, never mind my old sandals, mate, when I was working at Zandvoort.
You were on carburettors then, weren't you? I mean, what I find with Zandvoort, you can run wide and pull some sand onto the circuit and arrive at the next corner and just go straight off. So the experience is going to make a big difference.
So is this a circuit to suit Darren Manning?
Well, Darren's got a lot of experience, but he's up to speed always very quickly at any circuit he goes to. And I noticed even in free practice he went second quickest with only 2 laps. So the experienced guys with F3 experience are going to be the ones to beat. And don't forget Blisco, he only lives literally 5 kilometres from the circuit. That's going to be a big advantage here.
Let's just talk about Blisco for a minute, because he's inherited that position from Jos Verstappen at the last minute, really, Tony. But he is showing that he's got signs of greatness out there on the track. He
inherited a lot of that from his old man. Because his dad drove in Formula 1 briefly, but his dad continued to drive through Renault V6, through all the touring car championships, One Make Series in Porsche and so on. Jerome Blisco has a lot of touring car experience with DTM, for example, and Andy knows all about him, and he's a very competitive individual. He knows the circuit. That's going to be the key, because he doesn't have as much single-seater experience as the other guys. That is going to be his disadvantage. And when you're open wheeling at 160 miles per hour on that big straight and slipstreaming and so on, and these cars which have very limited aerodynamics, that's when we're going to see how good he is in the race.
Okay, we are poised for a great race. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, live qualifying action from the Circuit Park Zandvoort. Welcome back to A1GP's first race weekend of Series 2 from Zandvoort, Amsterdam by the Sea. Dutch fans here in their masses, 100,000 plus. Let's take you trackside for live qualifying with our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Texera there, the man who is heading the A1GP Series into its 2nd season. Just looking inside some of the other garages here, Team Pakistan, a new driver there, Nur Ali, who did not race for the team last year, although he was on the books. The session has now begun, and the first car to come out onto the circuit, interestingly, Australia. Now, Team Australia have a driver in Ryan Briscoe who's raced on this Zandvoort circuit in the past, and they're really looking to come into this 2nd season of A1 hitting the ground running, as it were. They finished in 13th place in the first series. They had a 2nd place finish. That was their best performance. The best qualifying they had was a 4th. But this driver, Ryan Briscoe, was in the points in all 4 of the races that he did last year, both in the United States and in China.
Well, Australia coming out first is always, if you like, going to give the benchmark to everybody else. Nobody normally wants to be first on track, but Australia have chosen to do so. I would imagine this is a lap for Ryan Briscoe, and this is his out lap, remember. It will not be the best of his 4 runs, that's for sure. Nevertheless, it will give the team a chance to find out the changes in circuit conditions. It's some 2 hours since these drivers were last on track, and as we know, in 2 hours track conditions change very quickly, and it can either go one way or the other. Here amongst the sand dunes, with wind blowing, sand gets blown onto the racetrack, which generally makes quite a different circuit to those that they left 2 hours ago.
So another car out is that of Pakistan, and interestingly, John, Ireland have come out early. Presumably they've got to make sure that everything is okay with the car that had a problem in the morning practice.
Indeed they do. They've got to get out. In the event that the problem, the fix that they believe was the cause of that lack of running this morning is correct, then they need to get out quickly, confirm that, then they can sit back and relax. They'll have 3 more goes at qualifying. Remember, you're only allowed 1 flying lap in this qualifying segment, so they'll go back into the pits assuming everything is fine, and then have 3 fresh sets of tyres to give Michael Devaney the opportunity to confirm the pace that we saw from him on occasions last year. But of course, Ireland, having lost that vital 1 hour practice session this morning, are really on the back foot.
Now Australia's on its one and only flying lap in this 15-minute segment. There are 4 15-minute segments, but he's on it now. This is his only chance to set a time in this first segment, so watch him through the fast sweepers at 4, and now he's heading up to your favourite corner, turn number 5, Shaivac corner, the old corner of the old circuit, before he now goes on to the new section.
Yes, you come out of turn 5, then it's a quick flick to the left, then down the brakes, then there's a long sequence of corners which comprises 6 and 7. This is 7. You wonder, where is the apex? You keep initially, when you go out on track, looking for it, sliding the back of the car a little bit as he comes into turn 8 and 9, so now hard on the throttle, accelerating up to some 240 kilometers per hour, just about 145 miles an hour. Then it's hard on the brakes, down into 9 and 10.
Remember, he's controlling a 3.4 litre V8 engine that produces 520 brake horsepower in qualifying trim, a little bit more in race trim when they use the power boost.
Yeah, and he had a little problem coming through turns 10 and 11. The back end checked. He had to get out of the throttle, so this will not be a lap even probably within the zone that he had this morning. He did a 1:30.284, runs very wide in the exit of 12 to release the car maximum speed 1 minute 31.5, and that is 1.3 seconds slower, but on a set of tyres that he ran on principally all morning, and he did some 17 laps. Those tyres have now completed 20 laps, and he will have spares, new ones, to go on this car.
Yep, so it looks as though he saved his new tyres for later. So Australia the first to set a lap. Also on a hot lap here is Pakistan, new driver Nur Ali, 31-year-old. He's raced mainly in the United States in the Star Mazda series, but now he's driving for Team Pakistan. It was a pretty late call, and he's had to sort of get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think he really struggled initially on Friday running, because the nature of Zandvoort with these cambered corners, there you see it coming out of 11 into 12, does put a lot of load into the car. It makes the steering feel, normally it shouldn't be quite as heavy as we're experiencing here. 1:37.3, well, that's something. At least he's got an opening time. He did a 1:36.1, so he's in the zone in relation to that we saw from Ryan Briscoe. Ireland should go quickest.
Yeah, let's see. No, he's not quickest. 1.2 seconds slower again, probably on an older set of tyres. Ooh, and a bit wide over the white line on the run in towards Tarzan, but presumably that was as much as anything a sort of systems check.
I would say yes, a pretty quick systems check, and of course, having lost so much time this morning, he's had to go out and do a lot of things that probably he had not pre-planned to do until the fact that they didn't have that 1 hour practice session.
Some of the teams have got new colour schemes. You'll have seen Ireland's is a very distinctive colour scheme. Some have retained their previous colour schemes. This is Team India's car. That's pretty much the same colour scheme as they had last year. Quite a late deal to be back in here this weekend, and it's the youngster Arman Ibrahim, who came in as a 16-year-old last year into the series, who returns once again. He's been racing in the UK in the meantime. He goes second quickest in this early stage.
It's a good run, very good run from Ibrahim, and in fact you can tell he's now 17 because I think he's beginning to shave.
He's gained maturity, there's no doubt, in his racing throughout 2006, and we're going to have to see how he develops. So Australia quickest, Greece is second fastest. That's a good effort from one of the two new teams. Here's the other new team. It's Singapore. Let's see how this puts them. That's a great effort. He's gone fastest already. And for Christian Murchison, who didn't get to drive the car at all yesterday, only ran the car this morning, he's gone quickest in the first part of this first segment of qualifying.
And that time, 1 minute 31.370, is not going to end up, because we have to take your best of 2 sessions. That's how the grid is determined for the sprint race with the rolling start. Nevertheless, Singapore into A1GP. This is their first outing in series. There, Greece, the team that was second, now been deposed down to third. But a good effort from 2 newcomers, Singapore and Greece, first and third.
Yes, an excellent start to their campaign, but now you can hear the cheering, because here comes the Team Netherlands car, and everybody will be hoping that Jeroen Bleekemolen can really shine for the Netherlands team. Now, of course, he knows the track, he's got the experience of the circuit, but he hasn't driven the A1 car on that many occasions, been doing the odd demonstration drive, but really he's quite limited in his experience in this car compared to 1 or 2 of the others out there.
Yeah, sort of found himself suddenly very much in demand after the demise of the negotiations with Jos Verstappen and his manager Huub Rutengater. So Jeroen Bleekemolen found himself in the car, and well, the Dutch fans, I can assure you, have switched allegiance from Verstappen to Bleekemolen in a blink. And you know the number of t-shirts that are going around Zandvoort, some of the messages are pretty blunt in their thoughts regarding loyalty to the fans, from the fans to Jos Verstappen.
That's right, they're focusing on the new boy now, and he's got the support. Jeroen Bleekemolen, he's on his outlap, remember, at the moment, so he's got to just build up the speed, and what we don't know for sure is whether he's on new tyres or whether he's going to go out first of all on a used set of tyres to just establish a baseline time. Now, probably, I would imagine that Singapore, having set the fastest time, had new tyres, but we gather from the pits that he is on new tyres. Now, that's interesting. They're going for new tyres early on here in the first segment.
Well, remember, it is your 2 fastest single laps out of 4 opportunities that will count for your good position. You're free to take the option of running new tyres or a set of used tyres whenever it suits you. Holland, they've decided to give Jeroen Bleekemolen the opportunity, give him a really good positive send-off. There you see the fans in the grandstand as he comes across the start-finish line to start his 1 flying lap.
Now notice, knowing the track, he doesn't even bother to go right out to the edge on the approach to Tarzan corner there.
Yes, the traditional line might say you stay further to the left and make a cut back, but because you've got these cambered corners, you want to get the nose of the car into that camber early and then really just hug the curb all the way around. And that is the quick line. Jeroen Bleekemolen, who races here literally every day, he knows the racing lines around these corners, 12 of them in total, and particularly this part of circuit. Very quick indeed, flat out in fifth gear, about 240 kilometres per hour before you get on the brakes, and then drop down the hill, a bit of a compression, then up, and the car releases before you get into turn 6.
Coming through here in fourth gear, then they've got to anchor up. It keeps tightening up on them, down to third gear, about 60 miles an hour. Try and keep the car as smooth as possible, and then third gear for the left-hander. Again, same sort of speed, but you have to be so patient here.
Yeah, patient and not overwork the car. The temptation is to overdrive the car. You want to make sure you get through the corner cleanly, because you'll not make up time by hustling the car in the corner, but it's on the exit where you can really get advantage of those new tyres, and he's found it with a 1.5 second advantage at sector 2.
Yeah, you could see from the split time coming up in green that he is fastest of everybody to the second sector, and it looks as though Team Netherlands is going to snatch the initial advantage here. Takes a big wide line into that Lyondike curve, the final corner, turn 12 on the track, and here he goes across the line. Are we going to see a new fastest lap of the weekend? A 1:29.1. It's not quite the fastest we've seen all weekend, but it's certainly enough to be fastest so far.
Yes, and that's a nice thing to have in the bank, because you know you go out for your first lap in your home race, and there's a lot of pressure on Jeroen Bleekemolen, so he's got a very strong time, 1:29.1, as we look at Team Italy as they come up and come across start-finish line. Is that time going to be challenged? No, not on this one.
So he goes second, though, does Alessandro Pierguidi, driver for Team Italy, and the Italians using two drivers already this weekend. They had a rookie in for the first session, Michele Rigolo. Then Alessandro Pierguidi, he's never driven the A1 car before either, in for today. Now, here is the car that was fastest in the practice session this morning. It's Team USA, and Team USA really looking for good things this year. They've got their driver, Phil Gibler, who was in the car for the majority of races probably last year. They did share the driving duties around a fair bit in the first season, but here Phil Gibler's got the opportunity to use his experience. He was at the final meeting at Shanghai, but my goodness, he was wide there.
Yeah, well, you've got to be careful on the exit of the S's into turn 10, because if you run wide and catch that curb, you can find the rear car tyre sliding off and catching the dirt, which is almost how Phil managed to exit the corner. He was quickest in that morning session on a 29.6, and he's 1.6 of a second away. Now that will be on the tyres I suspect he used this morning, and they will have had the best of the tyre used in that initial run this morning. So 2 more new sets for USA plus a further run.
Now here is the Czech car, and it's being driven this weekend by Tomas Kostka. The rookie out in the car yesterday was Jan Širous, and it's an important weekend this for the Czech team, because of course coming up in 7 days time they've got their own race. The second round of A1GP will be at Brno, and Tomas Kostka and Jan Širous and the rest of the team will be hoping that they can perform brilliantly at home, and they've got to start that with a good performance here at Zandvoort.
So
across the line he goes, 8th fastest in this first segment.
So we've seen 13 cars out. We've got just under 4 minutes remaining. There are 12 more nations yet to get out on track. China is one of those, and China was very impressive this morning as well. Frankie Chan did a great job, goes 7th quickest.
Yep, good effort there by Chen Kongfu, who Frankie, as we know him from his racing in the UK. Canada's just gone second, and Germany's just gone fastest. So Germany now quickest of all, from Canada in second, and the Netherlands now pushed down another one. South Africa's just gone into second place. That was when the Italian ran a bit wide out of that final corner, and I think we may see that a few more times during qualifying.
That really wasn't necessary. That's just maybe a lack of concentration. You don't need to run that far wide off the track, because certainly you could put yourself in jeopardy and lose time. But Germany, the time that we've seen from Niko Hulkenberg, another one of these teenagers that's coming into A1GP, 19 years of age, quicker than anybody so far this weekend.
Now what I know, it's just
Mexico.
changed. Oh, that's interesting. Team Mexico, which was such a successful team towards the end of last year. They won 2 races at Laguna Seca, on the podium in China, and it's Salvador Duran driving for the team once again, and he's gone fastest so far. Now you're watching the Black Beauty, Team New Zealand, Matt Halliday back at the wheel of this car, and the New Zealanders hopeful of a strong season right from the word go. Slight change around of team for this season, and Matt Halliday on the case. Let's see how his first run is going to be, coming up to the second sector, and he's just about half a second slower.
Yes, and a lock up there as he goes into turns 9 and 10, and I mean, it doesn't take an awful lot to lose the momentum. That will take maybe a few tenths of a second, maybe at worst, off a time from Matt Halliday. Doesn't look quite as settled as we've seen from some others, but the suspicion is that Matt Halliday may not have run a brand new set of tyres. Certainly the back end of the car appears to move around more than we've seen from some others. Goes across the line at 29.009. That's his quickest time of the day, and that may well have been a new tyre time.
So, fourth fastest for Team New Zealand. We're still waiting for France and for Great Britain to come out, and of course they are amongst the favourites. Here is Team Brazil. Now, always keep an eye on Brazil. They've got a youngster, Cristiano Tuca Rocha, driving the car here this weekend. He was with the team most of last year, not very quick on this first run, but that would be on old tyres, and don't count him out because he's been sort of top 10 material. Right, on track, the A1 title holders, Team France, driven this weekend by Nicolas Lapierre, such an important part of that title-winning team last year when he shared driving duties with Alexander Premat.
And a tenth of a second down as he comes into the S's, and then he's only got now to negotiate through turns 11 and 12. We noticed that Lapierre last year was one of the smoothest drivers when it came to qualifying. Car setup was absolutely perfect. The car looks very strong there, not needing to run the curb on the exit of 11, and that's what City does. It just, well, again, doesn't get a lot better from watching on the outside, and this could be just, well, third quickest.
Third fastest, so he's not quite there. New colour scheme on Team France. You see a lot more blue on the car this year. It looks good, but it wasn't quite good enough to be fastest in this session. And Nicolas Lapierre, did he get a bit of a slide on through? A little bit of a lock-up earlier on the lap.
Yeah, that's quite a big lock-up because he's now, I would think, got a fairly serious flat on that right front, and that will have a bearing and possibly how the remainder of that lap played out. Probably a lot of vibration through the steering. Alex Young, Team Malaysia, on lap. We've got some 25 seconds of this session remaining, and Alex Young will, I don't think he'll just get his flying lap and that'll be over. He'll be crossing the start-finish line at the time the flag comes out.
So Malaysia were on pole last time in China, and Alex Young seems to be good at timing it to the last moment. Remember how he snatched pole position from A1 Team GBR on the dying moments of that session. He's trying to do the same here, but I'm not sure this lap is going to be quite fast enough. There are a few other cars on their hot laps at the moment. Great Britain's out there, so is Team Switzerland, and Switzerland is definitely one to watch. Out of the final corner comes Malaysia. Alex Young pushing for all he's worth. Where's it going to put him? It puts him 8th in this first segment. But what about Great Britain and what about Team Switzerland? Are they up on a lap? At the moment, I would say no. They're probably both using old sets of tyres on their split times. I don't think we're going to see big improvements from either Switzerland or Great Britain.
No, the segment times for Great Britain are certainly down on Switzerland, and therefore they're going to be down on current fastest, which is still Mexico. A little wag of the tail from Darren Manning as he exits out of turn 10 in the Team GBR car. This is a car that also spent a lot of time on Friday afternoon in the garage at a sticking throttles. He only got one flying lap, and that was very impressive indeed. So Darren Manning in Team GBR comes across start-finish line, and he'll be in the top 10, but he's not his 12th place.
I think that car's definitely on older tyres. The way it was sliding around, he's saving his fresh tyres for later.
Well, we know Darren Manning has got the capacity to go out and do a blinding lap, having done very little running here, because on Friday when he did his superb lap, he did it literally on his first flying lap, and that was quick enough to keep him second fastest of everybody in a 1 hour session.
Switzerland has put in a pretty good opening lap here. 5th fastest for 17-year-old Sebastian Buemi, and Switzerland were very strong, of course, in the first season of A1 with Neil Yarni doing most of the driving. The Swiss were second in the series. They had one victory and a couple of pole positions as well. Well, at the moment Switzerland are currently 5th after the first segment, but remember there are 3 more segments to go, and each nation must add together its 2 best segment times to give it an overall time that will qualify for the sprint race. So here we go. This is how they stand at the moment. Mexico ahead of Germany, France in 3rd, South Africa and Switzerland, who've been well up throughout all of the sessions, then New Zealand, Canada, the Netherlands in the top 10 there, then Malaysia and Italy. Good effort that from Alessandro Pierguidi. Then the United States ahead of Great Britain, Indonesia, Singapore, an outstanding effort for Christian Murchison, then China, Australia, Czech Republic, then Greece, Brazil, India, Ireland getting a safe lap in at this early stage, then Lebanon, and the last at the moment of the 23 nations is Pakistan.
A1GP live qualifying from Zandvoort now underway. The first session of the new series, seeing Mexico putting in the fastest time. Salvador Duran winning the sprint and feature back in the USA last season. His team finishing 11th last season, but they're pushing here in Zandvoort, that is for sure. So plenty to look forward to then from Zandvoort. Amsterdam by the Sea, we're calling it. 100,000 plus crowd expected over the course of the weekend. Let's get the thoughts on session 1 from our studio team of Tony and Andy. And Andy, first of all, Salvador Duran pushing all the way there. How big a threat is he this weekend?
He's in his second year, and it's always easier in the second year. His experience with the team and the car. It's a new circuit for him, but he's probably been there in Formula 3. He's going to be one of the fast guys, but look at Germany as well. They're up there, and France in third, Lapierre putting in a nice little lap at the end. Bit disappointed with 12th for GBR, but I think they're probably on old tyres and they left it very late in the session, so I've got a lot of optimism for them later on in the session today.
It would seem, Tony, that the Dutch fans have a new darling.
Yeah, they do. The local boy, Bleekemolen's doing very well, and I think he'll react to the crowd. It's got to be worth half a second a lap to him, but at the same time watching South Africa emerge here as well, being run by Dams, and this young 19-year-old Zog doing very, very well. He's poised, nicely balanced.
Couple of other names to impress in that session, certainly Christian Murchison and Niko Hulkenberg as well. But session 2 is now underway. We're going to head back to our commentary team then of John Watson and Ben Edwards to take you through it.
Second, third and fourth sessions, and once again we see out early on track Team Greece, one of the newcomers along with Singapore this year. And well, Greece is 18th quickest, 1 minute 31.861. All they've got to do is get the car in the race, make no mistakes. These early races are more about learning about A1GP, and you to go into a 4-segment qualifying session is quite different to anything any driver has taken part in any other race series.
Absolutely right. There we are with Team Ireland. John, there doesn't seem to be too much sort of panic or concern as there was earlier around that car. It does look as though they've sorted out their problems.
Yes, I mean, if there had been a problem, you're going to be assured that the entire team will be diving in around the back of the fuel tank, the engine, where the offending part, and it's inevitable the part that the team got to last was the part that was causing the trouble, and it looks like it was a filter in the fuel system, but one of those filters that's buried right in the bottom of the fuel tank. Car ran perfectly yesterday, only come in this morning and about to go out for a session, and suddenly there's no fuel pressure. Michael Devaney did a lap. They thought they'd got a fix on it midway through the session, but in fact they hadn't, so they had to come back in again, and they spent the best part of the 2-hour break between the end of practice and the start of qualifying ripping everything out again. They'd changed fuel lines, fuel pumps, everything conceivable before they got to the offending fuel filter.
Now then, Team China on track once again, and we'll see how Frankie Cheng manages to get on here. So far, after the first session, 15th quickest, getting used to the V8 power of the A1GP car. This engine developed purely for A1 by the Zytek company in the UK, revving up to about 9,800 revs in qualifying trim. You get a bit more than that when you use the power boost in the races, but of course they're not allowed to use power boost when it comes to qualifying.
No, but it's interesting driving the engine to realise just how sweet and free the engine is, and the gear change, which is also a part of the engine gearbox package. Extremely good, very easy to use, even for novice drivers like me. You get in and the lever's just on the right hand, you pull up the gears, left hand you go down the gears, and that's the only concession to technology, and that really is more to do with engine reliability and than just simply performance.
So coming out of that final corner and on to complete a lap, Team Italy here. So the first to complete 2 flying laps is Team Italy, and in fact China's done it as well, but the 2 of them have gone first and second. Of course, you have to have 2 times in the bag out of the 4 sessions to register an overall lap time effectively, and Italy ahead of China.
But China's time was actually the quicker of the 2 times, although Italy are ahead in aggregate. China did a 1 minute 28.8 and Italy a 1 minute 29.7. Greece popped up into 3rd place. They are still running about the pace. The differences between the first and second sessions, only 0.3 of a second for Team Greece. But again, very much a learning curve. This team only really got put together in the last 10 days, and the whole car had to be built up by Arena Motorsport on behalf of Team Greece to get it here. There's the Greek pit lane, and well, you know, they're going to be happy to be here. Singapore pops up into 3rd place, but a time that was slower than their first run, and Pakistan has improved by almost over 3 seconds. So good job for Pakistan from Nur Ali.
It's great to see new nations like Greece and Singapore joining into the fray and getting involved into qualifying and getting out there pretty early. Interesting that they're trying to sort of stay out of trouble, I think. The track is likely to get fairly busy in the closing moments. That's when people think there could be an opportunity for the track to be cleaner.
Well, I mean, just you wonder how long it is before nations like Singapore and Greece are going to start building or taking advantage of their infrastructure to build a racetrack. Bringing motor racing to the people. That's what A1 Grand Prix is all about. Don't just request the people to come to your event.
Absolutely right, and you could imagine some pretty impressive street tracks, couldn't you, around Athens or Singapore, but that's probably for the future. Across the line goes Team India. They go third, so currently the order: Italy, China, India, Singapore, Greece and Pakistan. But those are the 6 nations that have completed now a time lap in both the first segment of qualifying and now the second segment. So add those 2 times together, that's what's given them their top position. But as soon as we see some of the quicker cars from the first session out, we'll see changes in that order. You're looking inside the New Zealand pit. The Black Beauty, the car and the engineering side of things has changed slightly for New Zealand this year. And the race engineer who was looking at France last year, looking after France last year, now looking after the New Zealand entry. New tyres again for Team Netherlands. Now that's interesting. So Jeroen Bleekemolen is going for it again on his second run. He was 8th quickest in the first segment of qualifying. He's got new tyres on. Bit of a gamble perhaps, because it will presumably mean they won't have new tyres for session 3. Maybe they've saved one more set for then the last session of qualifying.
Well, in his first run he did a 129.186. That's already been beaten by China, and well, in fact China's only one of the cars that have run so far in the second session who have improved significantly. So I hope Jeroen Bleekemolen will find a bit of time.
That time of China for Kung Fu Cheng, Frankie Cheng, is actually, is it not the fastest time that we've seen of the weekend? 28.817.
We've seen a 28.793 and a 28.504. So Mexico and Germany fractionally quicker, but still, I mean, a great time. China, who came into the series with really nothing in terms of talent. They were trying to develop their the Chinese talent as they went along. Now Frankie Cheng, who's got a lot more expertise and experience in international motorsport, has been drafted into Team China and paying dividends.
Now watch this young man, he really is a bit of a star. Adrian Saug, driving for South Africa, focusing, concentrating. He joined into another series just recently, hadn't been racing it all year, and went straight onto pole position in a highly competitive series. So we're waiting to see just what he can do in this session. He was 4th quickest in the first segment. Now though we're watching Lebanon, and Lebanon of course real triers in the first season of A1, produced and encouraged a lot of fans. I think the Lebanese team, through their sheer spirit, they come into a series like this with so little motor racing heritage, and yet their drivers, Khalil Bashir, Basil Shaban and of course Graham Rahal, put so much into their effort. This weekend it is Basil Shaban who's driving.
Yes, and I mean, all the drivers in Team Lebanon were one of the easiest nations to get on with. The drivers were always available, always willing to help out when interviews were requested. So Basil Shaban, who's had a mixed season in 2005-06, now benefiting from a little bit of running over the summertime, just being able to, and runs very, very wide coming out of turn 11 before he got into 12. Basil doesn't want to get as close as that in future runs. Nevertheless, let's see what Lebanon can do. Can they make an improvement? It's been an improvement in time by just under 3 seconds.
Yeah, so that does help. Ireland has been out on circuit. You can see his very distinctive new colour scheme. We're not going to miss Team Ireland now. Michael Devaney driving for them here this weekend. A little bit of a lock-up, but that's fairly usual section of circuit to see that. Meanwhile, Bleekemolen, let's see how he's getting on. He's on a hot lap here. Here's Jeroen Bleekemolen, and is this going to put him back up? He's on a good lap. Looking at the split times, he's on a very good lap indeed. This should put him quickest overall, but remember, we're yet to see some of the other front runners come out, and he is on a brand new set of tyres. Bit of a wiggle there through the final corner. Just had to apply a touch of opposite lock. See where this puts him. Should be first. Across the line he goes, by 2.2 seconds, and that gets a big response from the crowd.
And also that is now the fastest single lap of anybody over the weekend. But look ahead, with a big black cloud suddenly appears to be drifting in over the circuit. But Team Netherlands and the judgment to put him out on a new set of tyres in the first session, a new set in the second session, have certainly paid dividends. 1 minute 28.411 is a strong lap from Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Team Ireland still on the hot lap at the moment, their timed lap, hoping to move up the order from the first session, which was a fairly slow lap just to sort of make everything, get everything up to speed. This doesn't, I was just going to say, this doesn't look like a very quick lap, so I wonder whether he's had an off somewhere or a problem. but this is not going to move Ireland very much up the order, is it?
Well, it's going to be a disappointment if they've lost another run, and where Michael needed to really take advantage of every opportunity. He's only got 4 flying laps. Of course, he's got an out lap and an in lap also to get to grips with what they need to do with the car, and that's really what Ireland will be doing, is using the out laps and the in laps as well as the flying lap to determine how much change or improvement they need to make to the car.
Well, it puts him 6th at the moment, but it won't be very far up once you see the quicker cars out there, because we're still waiting for a lot of other cars to put in their quick lap. But it was a 1:30. It wasn't as bad as I was thinking. Of course, you've got to remember that the aggregate time, the total time, adds together the time from his first lap, and that was quite a slow run he had in the first segment of qualifying, together with the time from the second segment. So when it shows that he's 5 seconds off, then that's off the combination best time of the day so far. And so Ireland still very much in the shout. Remember, you can be absolutely nowhere with this style of qualifying. You get into the final segment, if you've got one quick time in the bag, you can suddenly go from nowhere to fastest. New Zealand's just gone 2nd quickest. You're riding with Team Germany here, and Germany's definitely one to watch. They were 2nd quickest, remember, after the first qualifying segment. So where is this going to put Germany? Can they claim the top spot? Not quite.
Interestingly, the second run of New Zealand and of Germany slower than their first run, so I suspect what they've done is they've used that set of tyres they ran on that first run for their second run, hopefully retaining at least 2 sets of tyres for the final 2 runs. But watch Salvador Duran for Mexico. He looks quick, and he looks like he's got all that confidence that we saw with Mexico at the end of the season. Mexico 1:28.572. Now that time virtually identical to that he did in the first run, and again most likely on that original set of tyres.
That's another impressive run from Mexico. So Mexico retain the top spot at the moment. We're in the second segment of qualifying here at Zandvoort, the opening event of a new A1GP season. Team France, of course, were the dominant force in the first season, and here we are with Team France looking to see if they can get back up the order again. They were 3rd. They're showing good performance, good pace. Their rookie driver, by the way, Loic Duval, was fastest of everybody in the rookie session on Friday, so it's not as if we know they've got 2 quick drivers in Lapierre and Prémat, but they found another one. He was very impressive. But here's Lapierre.
Certainly was. So Lapierre comes across start-finish line. 3rd quickest for Nicolas Lapierre, 28.804. So 2 consistent laps, almost identical times. So that's what France's strength was. They had this tremendous speed and consistency. Let's look at South Africa.
So this is the youngster Adrian Zauck. He's on old tyres apparently, so he may well have done the first run on a new set of tyres. Remember, South Africa were 4th quickest after the first segment of qualifying. With the tyre allocation, you don't have enough sets of tyres to put on a new set for each of these 4 sessions. You only, depending on how you manage your tyres, the best you can do really is to have 3 new sets of tyres for the 4 qualifying segments. So you've got to decide which segment of qualifying you decide to run the new set.
Well, he did a 1:28.8 in that first segment. He goes 2nd quickest, so 1:28.4 quicker for Adrian Zauck. So that is an impressive run, whether it was on that original set of tyres or not. Nevertheless, South Africa challenging Mexico for that pole position halfway through after 2 sessions.
Yeah, that is impressive. Only 0.2 of a second slower than Team Mexico on the combined performance, the combined times there from the first 2 segments. So South Africa is definitely a key player. And by the way, just an interesting point there. South Africa, the car is now being engineered by the Dams team that, of course, took France to so much success last year. South Africa now have the benefit of that engineering expertise, and they've also got a pretty electric young driver in Adrian Zauck. They've also got another very impressive driver, Stephen Simpson, in the wings as well. Now, you're watching Team USA. USA, after that first segment of qualifying, were 11th in the order, and it's Phil Gibler now pushing to see whether he can improve on that. 1.4 down at the moment. That would keep him in about 8th or 9th place, I would think, if he continues at that pace for the remainder of the lap.
So we've now got under a minute of the session remaining, and Phil Gibler pretty much, no, well, there's not, there's about 4 more cars still out on track, because they'll be allowed to compete the lap when the flag is out. And having then taken the advantage of running in the first qualifying segment on new tyres, then of course the drop off in performance, probably about half a second or so, then the tyre gets into that stable period when it becomes the race tyre. So it looks clean, neat and tidy, but just the out and out pace presently isn't there for Phil Gibler and Team USA.
No, so we've got a few more to go here. USA crossing the line. Let's see where this puts them. Well, up to 5th, so that's not bad. They have improved a few places, certainly from their original attempt. We've got a few cars still to go. Malaysia, Canada, Brazil, Switzerland and Great Britain are all out on circuit. They're all on their hot laps in this second qualifying segment. Let's see whether Mexico's time is still going to be under threat.
That lap of Phil Gibler, and we were saying it didn't look particularly good, is actually the fastest lap of everybody. The first driver to break into a 1:27 with a 1:27.884. So Phil Gibler looks deceived, because certainly we couldn't see the pace that we expected, and there was the time of 1:27.804.
Malaysia crossed the line. Let's see where this puts them. 8th place for Alex Young for Team Malaysia, race winner at the final event last year in China. Now Switzerland. Keep an eye on Switzerland. They were 5th after the first segment of qualifying. Youngster on board. He's only 17. Well, he's nearly 18. End of next month, he'll be 18 years old. But it's still very impressive what these youngsters are doing coming into A1GP and representing their nations. And Switzerland have a fine reputation to defend. Second in last year's A1GP series. He goes across the line and goes 5th and beats Canada and USA. So pushes them back. But Great Britain yet to finish their lap. Here we go, Darren Manning out of the final corner and across the line. Let's see where this is going to put him. Darren Manning for Team GBR, not going to take the quickest, that's for sure. He goes 11th, his time a 1:28.975. But remember, there are 2 more segments of qualifying still to go, and we could see complete change around from the current order as it stands.
Well, the fastest single lap we've seen all weekend still lies with Phil Gibler and Team USA, but it's the consistency that we've seen from Mexico. 2 laps of almost identical 1:28.5 that sees them with an advantage of just 0.287 of a second over South Africa. Young Adrian Zug. I mean, I'm flabbergasted that these youngsters, 19 years old for Zug, 17 years old for Buemi from Switzerland, 19 from Hulkenberg from Germany, and James Hinchcliffe in Canada, 19 years of age. They are just, amazing. And the maturity that they bring to their motor racing is even so.
Netherlands currently 3rd, so the fans are pretty happy about that, but will they retain that 3rd place as we go through 2 more segments of qualifying? We've still got a lot of time to go here. 2 15-minute sessions, and at the moment you've got to say Mexico are looking strong, so South Africa, they're right up there, but don't discount France. USA with the individual fastest lap time so far, but it's no good just doing 1 quick lap time in A1GP. You've got to string 2 together in 2 separate qualifying segments. Nonetheless, this is good showing from Philip Gibler, who came into the series last year. Perhaps not one of the big star names into A1. Brian Herter, of course, drove this car. Scott Speed drove it as well. But Phil is a real worker in the car and with the team. And it's good to see the kind of performance they've generated there. They're inside the Czech garage. Where have they ended up after 2? They're now 17th, so about the same sort of position they were earlier.
Well, looking down at the good positions as they stand provisionally after 2 runs, Mexico, well, maybe there's no big surprise. We know Salvador Duran has got natural pace, and he really matured and grew into A1GP at the end of last year. But 2nd, 3rd and 4th probably is the big surprise. South Africa in 2nd place with Adrian Zug, 19 years of age. Blake Mullen in 3rd place, and in 4th place, even more amazing, Sebastian Buemi, 17 years of age.
So Mexico the fastest, South Africa 2nd, Netherlands 3rd, then Switzerland, France, Canada, USA, Germany and New Zealand. Malaysia 10th, ahead of Great Britain 11th, then Italy, China, Australia, Brazil, Indonesia, Czech Republic 17th, India 18th, Ireland are 19th, then Lebanon, Singapore 21st, Greece 22nd and Pakistan 23rd.
Welcome back to Zandvoort, Holland. A1GP now well into live qualifying. 2 sessions down and 2 to go. Mexico still setting the example though at Zandvoort at the moment, but that man Philip Gibler certainly doing his best too. Let's rejoin our commentary team for session number 3, John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Here we are with Greece, and they've had 3 different drivers out in their car so far this weekend. And the man who's got the nod when it comes to actually qualifying it is Takis Kaitsazis, but also in the car was Vasilis Papaphilippou earlier on, and Stelios Nusias. And Nusias actually had a bit of an accident in the second practice session yesterday. The team had to work hard to get it repaired for today.
Yeah, no, he was on basically his first flying lap and came through turns 9 and 10, lost the back of the car, and it just speared off into the tyre barrier. And I know that the Greek team had worked so hard to get the car built, to get it here to Zandvoort, to enable the team to compete. But nevertheless, that's what motorsport's all about, and the men in the Greek team worked absolutely, I think it must have worked through the night to get the car prepared and onto the grid. And hopefully they'll have a good run in these remaining 2 qualifying sessions.
Pakistan onto the hot lap that counts for their qualifying time in this third penultimate qualifying segment. Let's watch him. He's through turn 2 into turn 3. The Hugenholtz hairpin just in behind the paddock, almost in the paddock, that corner. You can get very, very close to it. Wonderful uphill and positive camber corner, and then through these sweepers that we've been talking about, and now down to that plunging right-hander.
Yeah, you've got a very nasty bump coming into turn 5 that can unsettle a car. Then when you're pointing skywards, then eventually you've got to commit to the brake and down a gear, and then it's that plunge down into the compression, then out of the compression the car gets very, very sort of slightly light before again on the brakes into turn 6. Well, a little error of driving again.
Look
down
at the rubber.
Yes, the frustration maybe. And of course that's all part of the learning for a new driver in A1GP. Of course, no traction control to give the driver the advantage of driving around, if you like, a driver error. So the penalty is you get a slide. Let's look at it again on board. Well, there's the black line, and those are fairly substantial Cooper tyres on the back of an A1GP car, so rubber already left on the track.
Yeah, that's right. He's working that rubber too. It's maximum. There's some 30 inches of rear tread width in total on those 2 rear tyres, so lots of rubber on the road, but he managed to leave some of it behind. And let's just see what this individual lap time, let's see if he's going to improve on his previous best of 34. Yeah, he does actually. That's his best time of the 3 so far, a 1:33.677. He's getting quicker and quicker, is Nur Ali.
Well, it's unlikely that it's going to see any significant improvement in overall grid position, but let's look here at Greece, currently lying 22nd, and their best time so far is a 1:31.561, just about 3/10 quicker than their initial run. How many sets of tyres they have remaining? Well, it's probably slightly academic. Car looks, to me, a bit unstable through turn 11 as he gets back onto the power and then exits through 12. That time looks okay.
Yeah, he had a bit of a slide on that corner where his teammate managed to crash the car yesterday. In fact, that puts them up. That's definitely his quickest lap time so far. Not a bad effort at all, a 1:29.821.
Very good effort indeed. It elevates them up to 17th, but because their first and second runs were relatively slow compared to the third run, they haven't made up the ground. Now, if he can repeat that time on a 4th run, Greece could find themselves just at the back end of the top 10 and maybe even sneak inside. I suspect somewhere between 10 and 15 would be a great result for Team Greece here this afternoon.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to wait and see. We've still got this segment and the next to go. Here we are with Indonesia. Now, Indonesia had some good performances last year, and particularly in China at the end of the season. Ananda Mikula had one of his best qualifying performances of the entire season. He qualified in 5th place on that occasion. So far, not so well up. He's 16th.
But he did have that moment in the race with Team Ireland, Michael Devaney. They got together and Devaney's car went upside down, and both cars, in fact, retired in a bit of disagreement about who was at fault in that issue.
Well, he moves up the order. He's now up into 12th position.
1:28.876, a good time for Ananda Mikula, and again now looking forward to the 4th and final qualifying session. Again, if he can get himself another 1:28 or something, the whole grid, the complexion of the grid, let's say certainly outside of the top 8, could very quickly change.
Now here we are with Singapore, the other new team. We've seen Greece, and now with Singapore here attacking, seeing how they can get on to qualify for their first A1GP event. Into the first corner, the Tarzan right-hander. We follow it round the inside and then climbing up very slightly here. Nice little flick right, tricky little corner to get just perfect, and then back on the brakes. Here's that dipping hairpin, climbing back up the hill on the exit between the sand dunes, and now into those fast sweepers. And Christian Murchison, who only got in the car for the first time this morning and was racing a couple of years ago regularly in Europe, but really hasn't done a great deal in the last couple of seasons. Seemed to get to grips fairly quickly with this car.
Well, I can assure you he'll have a stiff neck and probably a few other aching parts of his body tonight, and I hope that Singapore will put along a little bit of TLC to... It is very important. It's not just a luxury. It does help a driver recover, particularly when he's not been regularly in a racing cockpit, and those body parts, the upper body in particular, neck, arms and shoulder, do take a big punishment around Zandvoort.
These cars capable of pulling up to 3G on the faster corners, thanks to the amount of downforce that the wings and aerodynamics of the machine produce. So it really is quite a physical thing, and this track, as you found, John, when you were driving the Irish car, is quite physical. You've got to muscle it around the slower corners, and then you've got a lot of G-force through some of these quicker corners, this last one particularly.
Yes, the exit 11 is slower than the exit of 12. You're picking up speed all the way around, exiting in 5th gear, and again the back of the car mid-exit was just flickering around. It comes across start-finish line, so it goes into 18th place and the 1:29.9, and that is, yes, by 2 seconds the quickest lap that we've seen from Team Singapore.
So they're definitely improving, but now let's see what Australia can do. Now they put in a good lap last time around, a 28.7. Their first segment lap wasn't particularly quick, so they're down in 16th currently, but I think they should be able to move up the order considerably here. They're half a second down, but remember that's on the aggregate time, so that's not a bad effort at all. He must be on a pretty rapid lap here to be doing that sort of performance, so we'll keep an eye on that as he continues on round.
Well, the experience that Ryan Briscoe has had over many years, and still a very young man, and 25 years of age, so let's watch how he exits. Good clean exit, uses the racetrack to the maximum, again straightens the car up as soon as possible to induce top speed, so he goes 7th quickest in a 1:29. That's actually slower than his second run. Right,
so it wasn't as quick a lap as last time around, so he's still got a few tenths of a second to find. They've got one more qualifying segment in which to find it. On board here with Team Netherlands, this is of course Jeroen Bleekemolen, the man who suddenly was given the opportunity to race for Team Netherlands here this weekend. He's been a part of that A1 Team Netherlands setup right since the beginning, but very much as the backup man, and he's got his big chance.
And there you see the graphics on the right, 120 miles an hour through turn 5. He takes it in 5th gear down to 3rd gear for turn 6, and this goes on and on. Short shifts into 4th, then back down into 3rd, makes that apex. It's a very, very late apex. You're always looking for it. Then this part of the circuit, turn 7, you've got a lot of options, but basically you keep, well, he's in 2nd gear, but most drivers I've seen have used 3rd gear. It enables the car to pull out of the corner without that sharp over into 0.3 of a second up.
Yeah, up to 240 kilometres per hour, about 150 miles an hour before this little S section. That's quite tight and twisty, quite slow in the middle part, but now he'll be up to about 200 or so kilometres per hour, just under, into turn 11. Now the final corner, listen to the throttle.
Well, again, there's that short shift, because it gets to a critical point in the corner where if you let the engine run in too high a revs, you might unsettle the car.
A 1:28.207, not the fastest of the day, but a quick time nonetheless there for Jeroen Bleekemolen, and it puts the Netherlands on top. They are fastest so far in qualifying.
And interestingly, that last lap from the Netherlands is quicker than either the best 2 laps from Mexico, who previously were quickest overall.
So this can all change still, but the Netherlands on top, home turf here, and can they hold on to pole? I think that's going to be a very tall order. Let's see what Germany can do. They've been right up amongst the front runners. They were 2nd quickest after the first segment, dropped to 8th after the second. Let's see where this is going to put them. They're going to go right up there, Germany. Is it enough? Yes, it is. They go fastest overall.
27.661, and that now is the fastest, I believe, single lap. 27.8 was the USA. So young Niko Hulkenberg, 19 years of age, another protege from Germany, and no doubt Willy Weber, the manager and seat holder of this team, is going to have a big smile on his face when he comes here tomorrow.
Germany first, Netherlands second, Mexico third, South Africa currently 4th, Switzerland 5th, France in 6th. Here comes Italy. Where's this going to put them? Only 12th place at the moment for Team Italy, but New Zealand also on track. New Zealand currently in 10th position, about to complete the hot lap. Will this move them further into the top 10? Up to 4th. That's a pretty good lap, not quite in the 1:27s. That is definitely the target now.
So back to Ireland, Michael Devaney. So what can Michael Devaney do? Currently 22nd, best lap of 1:30.020. So Michael, again, you don't get the impression that the car is travelling very quickly, but well, there the split time tells you 2.4 seconds down. His first 2 runs aren't going to do an awful lot for him. He's got to get a strong lap. He's got to get a lap somewhere in the low 1:29s, ideally a 1:28, but that's territory he's yet not visited at any point over the weekend, and it may not be available to him on this run.
I reckon he might just get in the 1:28 for the individual lap, but it's still going to keep him a fair bit down on the overall. Let's just see, 14th. What was he? No, he's just outside it.
Yeah, just outside. So he's going to have to do an awful lot more to keep Ireland in the hunt, in the top 10, if that's what he thinks he's capable. Presently only 14th, but 29.1 is quicker than cars have gone around him, particularly Italy and Malaysia, and well, it equals the best, not slightly slower than the best from Australia.
A little bit wide there for China. China currently down in 17th. They should improve on that, but I don't think this lap is as quick as the one he did earlier. But remember, they used a set of tyres this morning. He goes 11th. Now, I think that they'll have a set of tyres left, but I think he had to do 2 runs on old tyres, so he's been a little bit compromised. Nonetheless, it's a great effort for Team China, 11th so far.
But look at South Africa. Look at the speed Adrian Zook carries through. I mean, there's a driver who is what I would describe as a racing driver. He knows what he's doing behind the wheel of a racing car. Look at the speed carried through turn 6 into turn 7. No lock up, a little bit of opposite lock in the corner, but on the power, then gets the car settled again to come into turn 8.
Good to watch, isn't he? He really is working that car hard.
That is one impressive young racing driver.
Let's see how good it's going to be then. Driving for Team South Africa, although he spent most of his life in Switzerland, but he feels very much South African. He was asked if he wanted to be interested in driving for Team Switzerland, but he wanted to drive for South Africa. He's been given that opportunity here, and now let's just see where this puts him. I don't think this is going to be as quick a lap as some of them, but nonetheless, it's going to keep him pretty near the top. Probably not enough to beat Germany. Let's see where South Africa goes to on the provisional grid. 3rd, so just a little bit behind, just under 0.2 of a second on aggregate, slower than Germany, and also just a fraction slower than the Netherlands.
And equally impressively, all 3 laps from South Africa have been 1:28, starting off with a 28.8 and finishing up with a 28.1. And I would like to think, we don't know whether they've got one fresh set of rubber remaining or not. So South Africa clearly in the frame to be on the front 2 rows of the grid.
But watch this car, it's Mexico. It's been fastest after the first 2 segments. It was fastest after qualifying 1, it was fastest after qualifying 2. Is Salvador Duran going to retain that position for Mexico? Is Mexico going back to the top of the times? I'm not sure it's quite going to manage it. No, look at how close it was. 16 thousandths of a second on aggregate.
And that was at 1:27.9, the 3rd lap we've seen so far this afternoon in a 1:27, but not good enough to beat the young German, currently quickest of all by 0.016 of a second from Mexico.
So it's Germany 1, Mexico 2, Netherlands 3, South Africa 4, New Zealand 5, Switzerland, France, Canada, Australia. And who's out there? Great Britain's out there at the moment as well on a quick lap. So is Team USA. We're looking at Phil Gibler for Team USA currently, and he's trying to improve. Now remember, he's got one of the quickest laps so far, which he set in qualifying segment number 2. If he can do something close here, he'll jump up from a current 10th place into the top 3. Let's see how well Phil Gibler is going.
Well, we got misled by the body language of the car. We didn't think it was as quick as a 1:27 that we saw from Phil Gibler. So he goes 5th quickest that lap, 1:29.0. So quite a drop off in pace. Whether they've got one set of new tyres remaining for the final session. If they do, they're in good shape. If they don't, well, maybe 5th is the best they can expect.
Cars still to set their laps include Malaysia here, Canada, France, Switzerland, Brazil and Great Britain, and they're all out on their hot lap now. The checkered flag comes out, but remember, you can still keep going as long as you cross the line before the checkered flag came out, and that's what these guys have done. They've left it to the last minute. Where's this put Malaysia? 10th position.
So Alex Young into the top 10. We wait to see where Team GBR is. Currently they're sitting down in 16th place, but we're waiting for Darren Manning in that car to complete his lap as we go on board with Team France. France currently down in 9th, 1:28. They go 5th with a 1:27.931.
So an improvement for Team France, but not quite as much as you might have expected. But they've got one lap now in the 1:27s. If they can do another one in the final qualifying segment, then they'll still be up there. Still on his hot lap is Darren Manning for Team Great Britain. Now this is a pretty good lap. He's going to be in the 1:27s with this one, and he's going to leap up from current 17th. Is it going to be enough to challenge Germany? I'm not sure. He's right out to the edge here. Great Britain trying to take that fastest time. It's not going to be enough, but he's close. Only just under 0.3 of a second. They're so close up at the top end now. The top 6 cars are separated by 0.3 of a second.
And that lap for Darren, 1:27.770, by far and away his fastest lap over the weekend. He started with a 30.3, then a 28.9. Now a big jump forward, 1.2 seconds quicker to that 27.7. He's still right in the middle of the frame because he's got one more run to go. What we don't know is, have GB got one new set of tyres? If Darren Manning has got those new set of tyres, believe me, he will be determined to improve on his previous solo outing in a Team GBR car. That was in China, in Shanghai, earlier this year, where he was second quickest on the front row of the grid.
So this is the position, 3 down, 1 to go, and it's Germany ahead of Mexico, the Netherlands right up there in third, then South Africa, France, Great Britain, but very much in the hunt because they've got 1 lap time in the 1:27s, and they've got new tyres to use. Team USA 7th, Canada 8th, then Switzerland 9th, and New Zealand in 10th position. Further down, we've got Malaysia, Australia, and China. China could still jump up from there. Brazil, Italy, then we've got India and Ireland, further down than expected. Ireland, they've got some work to do. Indonesia, Lebanon, Singapore. Then to complete the order, it's Greece, the Czech Republic, and Pakistan.
So just the one qualifying session left today from Zandvoort. Let's get the thoughts of Andy and Tony back in the studio. Tony, first of all to you. What about Niko Hulkenberg? He's set 3 consistent times, hasn't he, throughout qualifying? He must be one to watch this weekend.
I think the telling thing is that Willy Weber, who's the seat holder for Germany, he's not actually over where the Grand Prix is, where Michael Schumacher is, over in China. He's here, and he's looking for the new talent, and this is clearly one of the men that he's been looking at very carefully. And from the work that he's done with BMW and from a very early age, all the cars that he's driven, now he's in this car with 550 brake horsepower, a V8 engine. He's literally been thrown in the deep end, but they watched him carefully at Silverstone. During the testing, he was quick there, and one day he was quickest, and he's showing true form here. Look at him, right using all that road. I'm not surprised by it. I'll be interested to get Weber's comments tomorrow from A1 to see what he thinks of his young charge.
Andy, what about these youngsters? Because they're looking good out there, aren't they? We've shown obviously Niko Hulkenberg, but there's also Adrian Zaug as well, the South African driver. They're looking impressive.
Yeah, what about them? They are pretty impressive. I mean, South Africa's Zaug has been really, really quick. You know, Hulkenberg 1:27.6, a 1/10 of a second quicker than Manning. Manning's 6th position, 0.3 off the front on aggregate. But these young guys are managing to find a way to the front. It's impressive.
Just watching Darren Manning go round here, because it looked like he was struggling in the first couple of sessions, but he seems to be coming back from the brink. Daz's
late charger, he saved his tyres till the end of the session. He knows Zandvoort, he knows it's always quickest at the end. It's quite a committed move, but he's put together a brilliant lap, 1:27.7, a 1/10 of a second off the Germans, Hulkenberg, on overall fastest in that session. He's a clever old dog, and he knows how to do it.
What do you make of the French so far?
Well, they're there, they're hovering, they're thereabouts. They're still going to be very, very strong. We'll wait and see what they do in the 4th quarter, but it's very telling that there's just 0.3 of a second between the top 6. We saw that during the test at Silverstone as well, and that's what fills me with excitement about the races that we're going to see tomorrow, and also the emerging nations that we've been looking at who are coming through. So I think there's a great mixture at the moment. See, Canada are in there as well, Australia are up there, and Holland are looking good in 3rd place.
OK, so the final qualifying session just to get underway. John Watson and Ben Edwards to take you through it.
That's what I love about this system of qualifying. It really does build up to its climax. We've got, as I say, 6 cars covered by 0.3 of a second here, and with that, 6 cars all in the 1:27. It could change hugely, though, this order, and what a difference between starting on pole position to starting in 6th place. And for the Dutch fans, with a current 3rd position on the grid provisionally, well, I think they would be delighted with that. Remember, this sets them up for a rolling start in a sprint race that this year will last 20 minutes, a shorter sprint race. And then the grid, interestingly, for the feature race will be a combination of how they qualify here, how they finish the sprint race, and their fastest lap in the sprint race as well.
Yes, I think the purpose of having a slightly complex formula to get your grid position for the feature race is to get away from what we've seen in motor racing in general over years, is that the fastest single lap in a qualifying session, or the driver who finishes first in the first part of a 2-part event, automatically gets that coveted pole position. So the pressure will be on the driver throughout the race, not just to sort of consolidate a position, but it means he's going to have to push all the way through that 20-minute sprint race.
Yes, indeed. Team France working away on their car. It's interesting, isn't it? France definitely feeling the pressure a little bit more here than perhaps we've seen. Although, having said that, they had 4 pole positions last year. It wasn't as if they always dominated qualifying. They shared 2 poles apiece, these 2 drivers. When it came to the races, they always had such a strong race setup.
Yes, the car basically was the secret to their success, but equally they had great harmony in the team because Nicolas Lapierre and Primat, they shared the car weekend on weekend, and when they weren't racing, when they were doing other duties, they equally each came to, there's a spin, is that Pakistan?
Yeah.
So the first car off track, and that's going to be unfortunate because that car looks like the engine is stalled and they need to get that car pulled to safety. So Nur Ali is in the gravel and can't quite work out which part of the racetrack that is from that over camera view. I don't even think he made it through any of the first sectors.
No, that's right. No, I don't think he did. So that's pretty early on. Oh, yes, he's made it. Actually, did get after sector 2. So it's at the S's, isn't it?
So he was on his outlap when this little moment occurred. So, well, they're proud to be Pakistani, and rightly so. That'll be disappointment for Pakistan. But the reality was, you wouldn't expect, and let's see how he comes into turn 9. Is it too much power? I think it's just simply too much power when he didn't have maybe the tyre at. These tyres are preheated, and if you're slow on your outlap, the tyre temperature will drop away quite quickly. Also, slightly more to the middle of the racetrack, and I suspect that's more a function of inexperience on the part of Nur Ali and not keeping tyre temperature up high, that when he did turn the wheel, the back end got away.
So I think the marshals got down to him pretty quickly, and hopefully they'll be able to sort that out. So we're under yellow flag conditions at the moment, and the clock is still ticking away, of course, on this session. So this could affect some of the other runners. There's nobody on a hot lap at the moment, though. Ooh.
Well, there's somebody coming around, and there you see them in the wave flags. Inexperience again from Team Greece. They didn't anticipate that there might be a car facing in the opposite direction. Racetracks, cars are meant to go in one direction. Now the car is being pushed to safety, and it'll be pushed further up the racetrack to that piece of tarmac access. Well, no, it's not. They're going to leave it there. So let's hope that now Ali gets out of the car promptly. We saw him being towed away in an earlier session, and he sat this morning when he actually stayed in the car.
Let's see how Greece performs here. It's a very smartly presented car, good colour scheme, very identifiable, very easily identifiable. And this is Takis Kaitazis. None of the Greek drivers have huge experience, but he's been racing in the Greek Formula 3 series, so he's got some experience of a car on slicks and wings, and he's certainly sliding it around a fair bit now, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's not going to really make any give him any advantage. He did a stunning lap for him. I mean, 29.8 by any standards for a driver unaccustomed to A1GP is very impressive, but sliding it as much as that will see the time just ebb away. And that's basically what happens if you're not on a new set of tyres. These, well, again, going through 5, you could see the back end momentarily just went loose, and you've got to be very careful. You can't push as hard if these tyres are a second lap or a second run as you would do when the tyre was brand new. The bite does change again just on power, and again 2 bites of the cherry on the exit out of turn 7.
No doubting his bravery, though, is there? He's having a go. That's great to see in his first proper run, really, this weekend in an A1GP car. Remember, these are pretty fearsome beasts. They entered one into the Autocar 0 to 100 to 0 challenge over the summer, and it does 0 to 100 in 5 seconds and 0 to 100 to 0 again, so up to 100 miles an hour and brake to nothing in 8.4 seconds, which is a full 1.5 seconds faster than the Bugatti Veyron supercar. This is a serious piece of kit that they're driving out there, and for the less experienced drivers there's a lot to get used to, but he's actually heading into the pits. Why is that?
I think he just called the lap off. I think that there was too much time lost, and I mean, if you keep that tyre as fresh as you can, 1 lap less with doing, I mean, he wasn't going to improve. His grid position currently is 21st. The only challenger he's going to see would be from the Czech Republic, and they are 22nd. Whether they would make inroads, it's probably marginal. So I think that the team might have decided to bring the Greek car in, keep that tyre 1 lap less, and that's a good call from a team from the pit wall.
That was the view when he found the Pakistan car. Not where he wanted to be, basically, but he was able to stop, and under yellow flags it always says you should be prepared to stop, and he was just about able to stop.
Yes, and I think that this is the problem, a blind corner. You come down to it, racing drivers always think they know better. They see a waved yellow flag, they say yeah, we'll be able to stop whenever, but there was a situation where it was required of the driver to really come to a standstill to enable the corner workers, the marshals, to get the Team Pakistan car pushed to safety.
So out of the car he gets. That's qualifying over for him now. Remember, you only get the one flying lap in each qualifying segment. We're into the fourth and final segment now. Only 9 minutes to go as well. And we're going to see a lot of track activity coming up in the next few moments. Team Indonesia then next on circuit. They've got one quite good lap in the bank, a 1 minute 28.8 last time out. And Ananda Mikkola, who, as I mentioned earlier, shone on a few occasions last year. When he's in the mood, Ananda can be very rapid, particularly on tracks that he knows. This one, I think, probably he's a little less experienced on.
Well, he has shown, as you mentioned, Ben, natural speed at different times throughout the first series. This circuit, a combination of high-speed flowing curves through the sand dunes, then that huge part of circuit, very much more technical, so you need the good aerodynamic balance that you need for these high-speed corners. And then when you drop the speed, you've got to find a way. And here we are going through turn 7. Important not to be too heavy-footed on the throttle. And Ananda Mikkola looks like he's got a reasonable lap running here. Currently his best lap to date, 1 minute 28.8. But of course he's going to need to repeat that if he's going to see himself elevated up the grid into somewhere more appropriate to where he feels he ought to be.
That's right, competed in 10 out of the 11 events in the first season, missed the Australian event, but he was at all of the others, and his best finish was a 5th place. That was in China last event of the first season, and he had qualified in 5th place for that race. But as you say, then involved in a sort of a dramatic accident with Team Ireland in a feature race. Let's just see where this puts Indonesia for now. They were 18th. Does it move them up the order? Yes, it's up to 10th position. Now, if he could hold on to that, he may be reasonably happy, but of course it will come under threat from the likes of New Zealand, Malaysia and Australia, who are very close behind him.
Yes, and 28.3 was Ananda Mikkola's fastest lap, so he's made an improvement all the way through the session. The first 2 runs may have been done on used tyres, but the second, third and fourth clearly were new lap runs. So again, use of tyres through Friday practice, and then once you go into Saturday morning, you want to keep as much of the new tyre availability you have for these 4 qualifying sessions.
The sun glinting off the tarmac and off the bodywork as well as they head down the main straight there. From India we switch to Lebanon. Lebanon already on a quick lap here and about to finish it off. Basil Shaivac, who's going to be taking the driving duties throughout the weekends now. Let's just see where this puts Lebanon, see if it improves them. Now it keeps them 19th, so they stay in 19th position, just ahead currently of Singapore, who've yet to complete their qualifying session here. And Basil will be looking to see if they can improve on that when they get into the sprint race. Remember, it's still Germany on top of the standings. From Mexico, the Netherlands 3rd, South Africa 4th, France 5th, Great Britain 6th and USA 7th. There we are inside the Netherlands pit then. Jeroen Bleekemolen, can he hold on to 3rd? Now we think that the Dutch may have used all of their new tyres. We'll have to check that when he comes out onto the circuit, but they may have used all their tyres already, and that could put them under threat for 3rd.
Yes, but we are hearing from the pit lane that Germany, whose time, that's the combined time of the best 2 runs to date out of 3, they may well have another brand new set of tyres. And Niko Hulkenberg's been absolutely sensational here this afternoon with a 1 minute 27.66, won a single fastest lap, but combined time 2 minutes 56.4. And here we are with the young German, and again car looks absolutely perfect. That's what you want to see from a racing car as it comes across start finish line to go on.
That's right, onto his hot lap now.
His hot lap indeed. So he looks to have a, yes, I mean the first part of the lap anyway, through Tarzan, then through turns 3 down to 4, down to the Hugenholz hairpin bend. John Hugenholz, the famous Dutch circuit designer, built the circuit back in the late 40s, early 50s. So advanced for its time, it's still pretty much a very modern racetrack.
It is, and it's providing a great venue so far for A1GP and for Team Germany. Just down the road, the German nation, of course, will be supporting their man here. I'm sure there'll be a lot of supporters here over the weekend to see whether Team Germany can really establish themselves. They had a best finish of a 2nd last year. Timo Scheider was the usual driver and had a 2nd place at Laguna Seca. That was their best effort, 1 podium finish for them. But this new youngster has impressed the team so much. He was in the car in the test at Silverstone some weeks ago, impressed them on that occasion, and he's doing likewise again. Fastest lap individually of the day, and look at this, he's heading for another very, very quick lap here.
Well, that is just, I mean, I've said sensational, running out of expletives to describe what he's done. I mean, a young guy, 19 years of age, Where do the Germans get them from? They seem to produce them. You've seen Michael Schumacher, there have been many others, Brother Ralph to a lesser degree but still outstanding. Stefan Bellof way back in the 80s had the capacity to jump into a racing car and do blinding laps.
Germany goes fastest, and look at the margin as well. It's a good last lap, although not as quick as his previous best, so they've still got to watch those monitors to see if anyone can beat it, but for the moment Germany's on top.
Well, that's a bunch of time, 0.6 of a second advantage over Mexico at this stage, so Niko Hulkenberg did a lap that didn't improve as he had done over the previous runs, 28.1 against, it was half a second slower than his best in the third sector, or third element of qualifying. So maybe it is enough to consolidate his provisional pole in his first outing in A1GP.
We will have to see. Germany's time enough for top spot at the moment, but possibly vulnerable to the likes of Mexico, Netherlands, South Africa, France and Great Britain. You're watching Italy, Alessandro Pierguidi, currently they're 16th in the all-blue colours of the football team as well, and of course Italy had a rather good summer, didn't they, with the football? Well, they're not going to perform quite as well here in A1GP today. They are 15th.
And a little bit of a tail slide there coming out of Tarzan for Italy, but just looking down the timing and scoring here, in theory the biggest threat to Germany, currently provisional pole sitters, is not going to come from Mexico, but will actually come from Team GBR, because Darren Manning did a 1 minute 27.7 and he's got one new set of tyres left. Now, Mexico's best is 1 minute 27.6, 1 minute 27.9, showing minus 9 tenths. We wait to see what that means when he comes out of turns 9 and 10.
There was just a hint of a puff of smoke. I don't know if it was a problem, may just have been a little bit of an overfill on the oil, but there was just a little puff of smoke. This is a good lap though. Looking at his split times, he is definitely going on the attack, and Mexico could well reclaim the top spot. This is looking good. Is Mexico going to go back on top? Across the line, yes. Mexico takes provisional pole.
1:27.670. So Salvador Duran
and
consolidates.
Switzerland have just crossed the line and they've gone third. So Switzerland haven't quite managed to go top spot, but they've done well. They're third. Australia on circuit at the moment as well. Let's see how they're getting on. 12th place. They are not going to improve.
South Africa quickest now, 27.349. As we watch Australia, so as we just count down, 1 minute 45 seconds remaining, South Africa have taken provisional pole.
There he is.
What a stunning run.
South Africa, Adrian Zaug has just taken pole with the fastest lap of the day so far. We've still got a couple more cars to go, but the fastest individual lap time so far is to South Africa, and he's combined it with a good earlier lap as well. But he didn't have another 1 minute 27 lap in the back, so he's still vulnerable, I would say, despite that brilliant lap from the teenager.
Well, there we are. See, Team South Africa, they're delighted. This is pure out-and-out pace. We saw it occasionally, we saw it in fact in Mexico, but then that time was disallowed for South Africa, and Stephen Simpson had to far much further down the grid. So we really have got one challenger remaining, and in my view it's only going to be Great Britain as the principal.
Yeah, Great Britain are the one to watch. Also France, I would say, but Netherlands has done its final run. As we thought, I don't think they had new tyres, because his last run, a bit of a slower one, 1:30.0, and the Netherlands are currently 5th.
Yes, and the Netherlands time, they would have taken their second and third qualifying segments as their best 2 of 4. Not enough time or rubber left for the Netherlands to get into that top 3.
Czech Republic, they're down the list now. They're down in 22nd place. They could do with a good run here. By the way, France is on a good lap out there at the moment, so France could be looking to improve on the current 7th place. Will they put South Africa under a threat? We're still waiting for the United States, Canada, Brazil, Great Britain as well, all to finish off this final qualifying segment. Czech Republic across the line, and that keeps them, does it? No, yes it does. It keeps them in 22nd position. Looking down at France now though, all of these guys are finishing off their hot laps, and Team France looking good.
Yes, fastest of everybody on that first sector, so France are back to where we've seen them in the past, and that is going to be very, very close, if not at the front.
France trying to take pole position in the first meeting as they try and retain the A1 title. Is it enough for Lapierre? No, it's not. Third fastest for Team France.
And Team GBR out on track as well, but equally not matching as we look back to see this is Switzerland coming across start finish line, currently in fifth.
Canada, I think. It's Canada,
okay.
yeah, and they've gone seventh. So Canada goes seventh. Not going to be quite up front, just behind USA, ironically. So you've got Team USA 6th, Team Canada 7th. And what about Great Britain? He's on a good lap here. It is looking fast for Darren Manning, the man who lost out on pole position in the dying moments of the Shanghai race at the end of the first season of A1GP. Can he do it himself and grab pole in the last few minutes of this session? It's going to be close. Is he going to beat South Africa? There's nothing to choose between them. Oh no, he hasn't. In the end, he lost a lot on the latter part of the lap. It's a 28.3, and South Africa have taken pole position with their brand new driver, Adrian Zaug.
Antonio Textero, Chief Executive Officer of A1GP, he is over the moon, delighted, as is the entire South African team. Pole position for Adrian Zaug. I mean, 19 years of age, what can you ask? First time out in an A1GP car, beats one of the stars of last year, Salvador Duran of Mexico, and France find themselves down in third place.
That's Mike Carroll with the sunglasses on, celebrating with the driver, Adrian Zaug, and that is just stunning. I tell you what, this guy is a real prospect for the future. He was on pole at Donington a few weeks ago, and now he has snatched pole position in his first ever A1 outing. Boy, that is some story, and for South Africa it means a huge amount. This team that has put so much effort into it, they're now running with the Dams engineering setup, who of course ran Team France and still run Team France, and France have ended up third quickest, and other teams just working out. Team USA now looked after by West Surrey Racing, by Dick Bennett's there checking the monitor. Team USA have ended up 7th overall on the grid for the sprint race. But what drama. A brilliant pole position for South Africa. The Netherlands got squeezed down to 9th in the end. Quite a few improvements around the Netherlands, and Jeroen Bleekemolen will start for the home nation in 9th position, just ahead of New Zealand. But South Africa it is, with the fastest individual lap time set in that 4th qualifying segment, matched up with a great time in the 3rd segment, and they've taken pole by just over a 1/10 of a second from Mexico. This is the order then: South Africa and Mexico, France and Germany, then Switzerland and Great Britain just couldn't quite get it right in that last segment. USA 7th ahead of Canada, the Netherlands 9th ahead of New Zealand in 10th position, 11th for Malaysia, and then behind Malaysia it's Indonesia, those two great rival nations again together on the grid. Australia 13th, China 14th ahead of Ireland, Brazil, Italy, then India, Lebanon, Singapore and Greece, the two new nations together on the grid, 20th and 21st, followed by the Czech Republic and Pakistan.
Welcome back to Zandvoort. It's Team South Africa who take pole position going into the first race day of the new A1GP season. Impressive display of driving from Adrian Zaug in the South African car puts them on pole for tomorrow. Salvador Duran of Mexico in 2nd. Nicolas Lapierre, 6 race wins from 11 appearances in A1GP for the French car, and he's in 3rd spot. Niko Hulkenberg there as well. Sebastian Buemi for Switzerland. Darren Manning in the GBR car. Phil Gibler of the USA. James Hinchcliffe of Canada in 8th. In 9th, Jerome Bleeken and the Home Hope, and Matt Halliday from New Zealand lining up in 10th spots. OK, let's get the thoughts then of Tony and Andy back in the studio to that session. And Tony, let's start with what was really a disaster for A1GP. The new rules, changes to last series, but still there are safety concerns out there, aren't there?
Yes, very specific safety concerns. I think the three of us were watching as the marshals pushed the car across the track. The first thing is obviously Team Pakistan here when Nur spun, and this was a very amateur effort from him. You can't blame the guy. He's been put into the seat very, very late. He's a student in the United States of America. He's studying international relations with a focus on American foreign politics, apparently, but he's hardly raced at all, and that is a fundamental mistake, and off he goes backwards. But from race control, they've obviously decided not to stop the session, and the marshals are coming across to try and get the car out of the way. But what transpires here is they start to push it across. Now, can you see any yellow waving flags as Grease comes in? No, you can't. Here he comes, and he could have collided with the marshals, the car, and there could have been a major crash there, because the marshals should be behind the barriers vigorously waving double yellow flags, perhaps even waving with their hands to slow the cars down, but you can't see them, and I couldn't see them during that incident.
What you don't see there as well is it's a very steep dive to that braking zone. You can't actually see it when you're really low in the car. You wouldn't be able to see that car placed on the apex. So for me that was really quite dangerous marshalling there, and it's not at this level of A1GP. These cars are very, very quick.
OK, that's the negative. What about the positives? Well, what about Niko Hulkenberg? Because he's been impressive out there today. He chose to go out early again in the final session, Andy. Was this a wise decision?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with him. This is, he's a great pedigree. He comes from Formula BMW in Germany. I'm pleased to see 3 of Formula BMWs inside the top 3 here. And yeah, I mean, he put in a very impressive performance. Obviously, Zaug outpaced him on ultimate lap time, but Hulkenberg has been consistently fast and he's looking very strong.
Speaking of Niko Hulkenberg, let's get the very latest from him from the track. Lee Mackenzie's been speaking to him.
Niko, that was very impressive out there. It just got pipped from the top 3 right at the very end, but you must be very happy.
Yeah, 4 is okay, but we were leading, so it's always a little bit disappointing if you get dropped off, but 4 is okay for me.
And it was the consistency as well. I mean, that's the hard thing about this qualifying. You've got to put a couple of good laps together.
Yeah, my 3rd run was very good actually, but the 4th one I had one problem and I made a little mistake, so I lost some time there, and I think, yeah, that was the mistake finally.
What do you think you can do out there tomorrow?
I don't know. All guys in the front are strong, so we have to see. I just want to finish the sprint race, and then we have to see for the long main race.
Niko, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
What then happened is Salvador Duran stole back the top spot from Germany. Then he lost it to South Africa, Tony, and in particular Adrian Zaug, who's been impressive, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's been very impressive for British audiences of late. We knew about him looking at Team Australia at the moment, but he has impressed audiences over here when we saw him at Donington very recently, and he got 2 second places in the World Series by Renault, and already marked his card. And as he progresses through the ranks, he's just 19 years of age. He's won in most categories, and he's won street races in Bilbao and so on. And I think we know him through the Formula BMW as well. Very, very impressive individual.
Andy, let's talk briefly about your pal Darren Manning in 6th in the end. He's going to be disappointed, is he not, with that?
He will be. I think he had a very good pace in the car. It seems to me that both Hulkenberg and Darren missed something in the final run, whether it was traffic or a minor mistake, or the track just got slower because Zandvoort changes a lot. But he's got the race pace, I believe. Darren's got the race pace to be very, very fast this weekend. Interesting enough, talking about the quality of drivers, you see Ryan Briscoe, the Australian driver, down in 13th place. So, that just goes to show the level of the championship.
OK, thanks for the moment, chaps. There's plenty more reaction and analysis to come from Andy and Tony. And, of course, we'll be looking ahead to race day with Darren Manning. That's next. Welcome back to A1GP Zandvoort, Holland. Team South Africa have set their stall out for Season 2 and they take pole for race day. Plenty then to look forward to. Let's get the thoughts of Tony and Andy back in the studio to what were 4 hectic qualifying sessions. And one thing that came through is the pace from the youngsters, Andy.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Zaug. I mean, he's gone 3/10 quicker than anybody in that session. Let's not forget, Lapierre is still driving in this championship with all the experience he had last year. Very impressive. Hulkenberg, massively quick. 3/10 off Zaug, but he did miss up his last run. I think he's looking really, really impressive as well. So the young boys are coming through. The experience of Formula BMW, I believe, has really helped them. And, it's showing, reflecting at a very high level, which is impressive.
You mentioned Adrian Zaug there, the man on pole. Let's hear more from him. He's been speaking with John Watson.
Well, welcome to the Pangaea, the VIP hospitality area for A1GP. And here we've got Adrian Zaug, pole position, first time in an A1GP car. Salvador Duran alongside him in the front row of the grid, and familiar man on the podiums here, many times a winner in front row of the grid, Nicolas Lapierre. Adrian, first of all, I don't believe it, you're 19 years of age, is this true?
Yes, I am.
Tell us a bit more about you, because we don't know so much about your racing history, and this performance today, unbelievable.
To cut a long story short, I started karting in 2000. And I moved on to racing cars in 2004, my first year in Formula BMW. Then I did last year Formula Renault Euro Cup, and this is what I'm doing this year, the whole season. And I got to race 2 races in a World Series car, where were held at Donington and Nürburgring.
So what is it about Zandvoort here under the A1GP car that seems to work for you?
I don't think it's just because of Zandvoort. I think the team and me, we just work very well together, and we were able to improve the car all the time, and and that's the result.
Well, he wasn't in the top three, in fact finished 6th in qualifying in Zandvoort, but one driver looking to make a big impact this season is Team GBR's Darren Manning, having blasted onto the A1GP stage for one race only in China last year. His presence on the circuit has not gone unnoticed. Earlier this week I caught up with him at Zandvoort to get his thoughts ahead of the race weekend. I started by asking him about how A1GP compares with other motorsport series that he's been involved in.
I've raced obviously in pretty much everything apart from Formula One, so this is right up there with the Champ Car and IRL series that I've done, in the fact that you've got the Verstappens, the guys like Brian Hertz coming over, Thomas Scheckter, high-level drivers, and also some young guys coming through the ranks that I used to be and trying to challenge us as well.
And Great Britain takes second. They wrap up third place in the series, holding off Mexico to the flag, and Darren Manning has made a superb debut in the series.
China was good, with it being my only race and coming in with a bit of a bang, like you say, getting the second place in the first race. A bit disappointed to get the drive-through penalty in the second one, because I was still going for that elusive first win for GBR, but it was great, I got well received up and down the pit lane from the other teams and team managers and engineers and drivers as well. They're all saying this is supposed to be hard, which it was pretty hard, but I was very familiar with the car and the team, and everybody was new to that track as well, so hopefully it played into my hands a little bit. I'm pretty used to jumping into something new, but it is always difficult with the 4 qualifying sessions and two races. Normally as a racing driver you're only doing 1 qualifying and 1 race, so to get yourself re-psyched up every time to get out in qualifying in the races is very difficult. So but with the new way they've spread it out a little bit more and compressed the qualifying situation a little bit more, it's hopefully going to be a little bit more calmer for the driver, shall I say. But it is still down to the driver and team together. Every team has its own little quirks on the setup of the car, stiffer here, softer there. So there is still, even though it's hundredths of a second or less instead of tenths of a second, it's still pretty critical to have that relationship between team and driver. I think the fact that towards the end of the season, you saw the lap times and the qualifying and a few different teams other than the French winning races, apart from the British, of course. We've got to rectify that this year, but I think a lot of them, or the teams and drivers, got more to grips with the car because they are a tricky car to drive. They're very high powered, the big cars, they're quite heavy cars, and with the long races they are quite tricky to drive. So no traction control, you've only got the paddle shifts as a driver aid, so that helps when you're going sideways to change gear. But no, I think it's going to be a lot closer season from the get-go. We're going to be going out every race to win, whether it's me in the car, Robbie in the car, or even if Oliver gets a chance later on in the season, or anybody else driving for the team. So we're going to be going out every race to win, starting here at Zandvoort.
It's going to be on the 3rd row of the grid, Darren Manning, lining up in 6th for the sprint race. This is how it's going to look. Adrian Zaug on top there on pole. Salvador Duran next to him for Team Mexico. Nicolas Lapierre in 3rd. For Germany, Niko Hulkenberg. Sebastian Buemi for Switzerland in 5th. In 6th, it is Darren Manning, as we've said. For the USA, Philip Gibler in 7th. In 8th, James Hinchcliffe. Jeroen Bleekeman in 9th. And 10th, Matt Halliday. OK, let's get more from our studio guests, Andy and Tony. Tony, let's talk about the rule changes in place for race day. The feature race grid is going to be a combination of qualifying results, sprint race finishes and fastest lap times. So how important is it, with all that to consider, to be consistent as a driver this weekend?
Very, very important. But I think because we've got a much bigger gap, 3 hours 40 between the sprint and then the feature race, it gives them a chance to make any repairs to the car. It gives them a chance to put in a new driver's seat or driver's pedals if they want to take a change of driver, etc. So it is very important. But we were also, Andy and I were looking, we noticed in the rules it said you only get prize money from the feature race as well. So everything is so important about qualifying to get that good position, and it's a combination of so many things, as you say. But I think it's for the good, and I think it's great that A1GP is back for a second year, and it's looking to me at the moment much stronger, and it's so healthy with this rookie situation, bringing in the young talent as well on the Friday.
Sprint race now 20 minutes, Sandy. The feature 70. How's that going to affect the team decisions that are made throughout the course of the day?
Well, you need the car for the feature race, so you don't want an inexperienced driver in the sprint race. Sprint race is important to get your grid position, so I still think they're going to go for the conservative, guaranteed bet in terms of driver. You're looking at Darren, Team GBR. I've chosen him, to do the first race. That's for a reason. Lapierre's in the car. That's for a reason. These young guys are showing a lot of pace in qualifying, and I think if they can prove the next 2 or 3 races to be very consistent, they're going to give them more of a go. But there's going to be a lot. I'm really interested in the battles between the young and the old drivers. Not old, we're talking 30 years old, they're in their peak in motorsport. There's going to be a lot of team politics going on, and there's going to be a lot of conflict within the team. It's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
And another pointer for you, they've still got power boost, so expect plenty of overtaking as well. OK, well, Zandvoort does kick-start the second series of A1GP. Here's where A1, though, is going over the next 7 months or so. After Holland, it's the Czech Republic. That's next weekend. Then they're heading to China, to Beijing, on the 12th of November. Following that, Malaysia, the Sepang International Circuit. And then it's Sentul for Indonesia on the 10th of September. That's still to be confirmed, that race. New Zealand in Taupo for the 21st of January, the first race of 2007. Australia for Eastern Creek on the 4th of February. That one is still to be confirmed. On the 25th of February, it's a Durban street race. Remember just how successful that was last season. In Brazil for the 18th of March, and then a week or so after that, it's Mexico on the 25th of March, the 15th of April in China, and then Great Britain at Brands Hatch rounds it all off on the 29th. Join us Sunday from 1 p.m, Sky Sports 3 for A1GP, the Netherlands live from Zandvoort. And next weekend, we're in the Czech Republic, as I said, for the second race of the series, qualifying from Brno next Saturday from 5:30, also on Sky Sports 3. So, a new season, a new team and a new driver on pole. Join us for race day.